Hey, everybody, when you're doing research out on the internet, looking at different images or even in books, what qualifies an image to be an inspired deconstruct image? Are we ready for this? Let's do it. Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you're new to this channel, it is dedicated to photography and as a photo artist, but really to push you to think creatively, literally out of the box and do some really cool things along with Photoshop and along obviously with your camera. With that out of the way, if you could do me a favor, if you're new to the channel, again, like this video. It helps with the algorithm to share it out to other people on YouTube. Also subscribe if you have not subscribed, and also hit that notification bell. Next time I upload a video, you'll get notified on that. With that out of the way, let's jump into our topic today, and that is an inspired deconstruct image. First of all, what is that? What type of image qualifies for that, and what's the big deal about it? I mean, what do I do with that image that, say, qualifies in that realm? So let's talk about, first of all, what is a inspired deconstruct image, and how do we qualify that? Well, number one, obviously, it's an image that inspires you. In other words, you just stop to go, wow, I really like that. Maybe I don't know why I like it, but it just it pops in front of my head. It just stands out. I like it. Deconstruct means, how did they create that image? What kind of lighting did they use? Was it soft? Was it hard lighting? Was it straight on? Was it cross lighting? You're looking at the pose, or, if it's a model, how are they posed? If it's a landscape or maybe a product shot, again, how things are positioned with the camera. So you're trying to visually, in your mind, deconstruct that. And the whole goal is, when you find something that inspires you and you're deconstructing it in your mind, you want to try to replicate that image yourself. Now, it doesn't have to be perfect, so let's talk about this for a moment. Basically, three broad areas we're going to talk about. Number one is, when you're taking an image and you're going to deconstruct it, because again, you were inspired by it, and you're going to try to replicate it. Well, it doesn't have to be a perfect replication. It's just forcing you to analyze something and try to do something close to it. Okay, so in other words, think of this as an exercise for your eyes and your brain, because that's the whole purpose of this, is to start thinking creatively. It's like, okay, I love that image. How do they put that together? Or possibly, how did they do it? I mean, I don't know exactly how they did it, but I'm trying to guess and analyze this and see if I can come close. And this whole thing is nothing more than enjoying the journey of the process. Okay, that's the whole importance of using an inspired deconstruct image for yourself. It's really building your skills, pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, and again, thinking out of the box creatively with this. And again, you're exercising, again, the eyes and the brain. So let's take a look at a couple images here. And one thing that I really like about this image is just made me stop. And it's like, oh, wow. And it was, how did they do that? Now, this image was given to me months ago by somebody, and I got back with them, and they can't remember where they found this image. In other words, I don't know who the photographer was that did this. I think it's important to give credit to that person. If you know who did it, let me know so I can go back and give them credit. But again, the person that flipped that image to me, can't remember where they got it from and stuff. And I've been looking all over the internet, and I can't find anything. So anyhow, but I wanted to, try to replicate this as close as I can. And again, this is not about being perfect. It's just about being inspired and to deconstruct that. And I'm going to show you what I did in Photoshop in a few minutes. But this is the image I came up with, and it was a model I shot a little over a month ago. Her name is Jinx, and she knew about this ahead of time, so she was all in on this. She was, up for the shoot and stuff like that. And so this is what I came up with. And again, it's not exactly the same. And we actually liked the colored version of this versus the black and white version, because I did both versions. And she was wearing really bright red lipstick, and it sort of really popped out and stood out more as a fashion look. So she liked the color one, and so did I over the black and white. But I did both just to see which one we'd like the best. So we're going to tear this one apart. I'll show you how I built this in Photoshop in a few minutes. The other image came from a person I've been following for quite a few years. His name is John Gladman. The link to his website will be in the show notes for you to take a look at his work. It's not all this fine art nude type stuff or implied nude. A lot of it is shooting kids and objects like race cars and other stuff. And he has a very unique style that I really like, and it had a major influence on me in constructing a lot of artwork that I do when I do or photograph kids, where I got my Norman Rockwell type style and look, and part of that was influenced by his style. And but anyhow, I deconstructed the image a bit, and again, Jinx was up for this shoot, and this is what we came up with. Now, mine has a slight different look to it and feel, but it doesn't matter. In other words, I forced myself to look at the lighting, very flat lighting, and just, again, push me out of my comfort zone to do something a little bit different in that. So that's what I came up with on that inspired Deconstruct image. So with that stuff out of the way, we're going to take a look at how I took and created that image in Photoshop after my photo shoot session with Jinx that was inspired by this image. All right, so let's get here and jump into Photoshop. All right, so on the left side here in Photoshop, this was the inspirational image right here that was done in, again, black and white. And then this is what I came up with, Jinx. And let's take a look how this was constructed. And I'll share with you the challenge I had in a couple spots here and what I did to fix that. But again, getting the pose down and shooting this was actually done on a black seamless background in a studio. The lighting was pretty much direct on. It was a little bit, not as hard light as it was used over here on the left side. I just preferred a little bit softer light, but I could have done it, hard light. But let's take a look at the original shot here. And again, just a heads up on this, I got to make this YouTube friendly. When I work with models and we're doing implied shoots, I always request that they wear a G-string on the bottom. I don't want them bottomless. Yes, there are many times where they have to be topless temporarily and they may be moving their positions around and they're exposing themselves to me. They have to be comfortable with that. And I never ask them to do that on the spot. In other words, they knew this in advance before the shoot was going to happen, and they have to tell me that they're comfortable with that. If they're not comfortable with it, then they're the wrong model for that shoot. So I don't want to spring surprises on anybody like that as a model. I keep my distance. There's obviously no touching. I had to be a good, I would say 15 feet away from her, just directing her back, from the camera distance. So this is the shot, and again, I had to blur areas out so you can just see that over here I was just doing some cloning and other stuff and blending with a mixer brush and Photoshop to get rid of that side because we didn't want to see the strap right there. And then again, the chest area I blurred out just for YouTube purposes, that kind of stuff. So let's take a look at the way this was put together. Over here, there's a layer that actually is blocking that with the curved, all in black. And then this is the one I did on the left side. And you see that I didn't go down all the way to the foot because I just basically painted in that area there. And that way there's the entire shot. Now I had to do some touch up because this does not show up on video, but I did a stamp layer. And with the stamp layer, I applied a multiply blending mode at 100% because what that did was it made everything jet black. And it did make the her darker, so let me turn off the mask. So this is what the multiply blending mode did. I just made sure that all the black around her was pure black because again, I did see a little bit of background lines and stuff like that from the shoot, from the seamless. So this just guaranteed everything went jet black. And then I masked in, let me pull up the mask to show you. I masked in, remember the rule, white reveals, black conceals. So when I mask that black area right here, it's bringing back the original, again, lightness of her from the original image. Then I did another stamp layer, and you'll see that when I activate this, I just did Control T, Command T on a Mac, and that's what I just wanted to rotate a bit on that. And then I added over here at the very top a curves layer, and here's why. Sort of lost, and again, this is even worse on the video, but on the image it really helped a lot, and that is I lost her black hair there, so I bumped this up. There you can do a little bit of on and off there with the just to add highlights to the hair so it stood out for the print. And it came out really well, but again, might not show too well on the video because video, YouTube compresses it and stuff, so you lose a little bit of quality there. And then again, if I just pull back on this, just added the text Jinx on vertical rather than horizontal, and then my signature in the lower right hand corner. So that's how that was actually put together and constructed. But let me share with you the problem area I had and a couple approaches you could work on here. So let me turn all this off, and that was this right here. Let me cover that side. So it was, how did I make that? What were some of the techniques? And I had some trouble times, putting this together. And there are some different ways of actually retweaking it. So let me show you a couple different ways of doing this. There's no right or wrong, it's just getting the look that you want. So I'm going to hide that right now. I'm going to add a new layer, very top. And what I did was I started with just the basic rectangle selection tool. And I went over her body right here and just did a click and drag motion like that. And you could extend it out further. I don't really have to on this, and I filled it with black. And I pulled the opacity down. By the way, just going to deselect that. So Control D or Command D on a Mac will deselect that. And let me pull that down to about a 50% opacity because I want to see her body below that. And let me zoom in on this a little bit. And this is what I ended up doing. And that is, you could grab the brush tool. So B for brush. If you don't know where the brush tool is at, it's over here. And when I grab that brush, I'll make it a certain size, which you feel comfortable with. I'll do a right mouse click here and just show you the hardness. I want all the way up, and maybe pull back on the hardness just a little bit. And the size of the brush, let's make that about that size right there. Okay, with that done, I'm going to add a mask, and then I can just come up here and just sort of carve out that area. So what I did was just click and drag like this, and just, again, just shape that till I get to right there. And that was the way I just had cut that out. And again, just come in here, fix that up, just going around the hip. And it sort of goofed up here. I got into her arm and stuff. So again, X on the keyboard, and we're going to paint that back in white just to fix that. Okay. I'm not going to make this perfect in that, but that's one way of doing it. And then go back here and just pull that up to 100%. And again, if I pull back on this, you can see there's the before and after. And again, I might want to reposition that. So grab my move tool and just move that with the move tool. And again, you could see I got to mask out some more things there. But that's the way I approached it. Now, a different way of doing this, which is the way I ended up doing it, is let me just delete that. Just get rid of that again. Let's add a blank layer there. And this is what I ended up doing. And I'm not the greatest with this tool, but it just gave me a little bit better control. And that is, I grabbed the dreaded pen tool here on the toolbox. So I grab the pen tool, and I start up here at the very top, and click over here to do my start, and just click here and drag a little bit. Come down here, click and drag, and just doing that arc shape right there. And then when I came down here, right when I came down to the hip, I just changed my direction and just go out here. And then click on that to close that out. Right mouse click and choose to make a selection. converts it to a selection. I did a 1 pixel just to slightly soften it up so it's not truly, really a hard edge. I mean, that's very subjective. It's all up to you. With that selected, I just did Alt-Delete on the keyboard. That filled it in with black. If I did Control-Delete, it filled it in with white. And that's the chip colors that you have on your toolbar. So my top chip color was black, so I knew to do Alt-Delete to fill that in. That would be, let's see, Alt would be Option-Delete on a Mac. Control-Delete, Control, I think it's Option-Delete on the Mac computer, just to delete that selection or deselect it. And you see a little bit of white there. That's fine. I'm not worried about that so much. But that's how I had created that. If I have to mask that in or paint that, I would do that. So just, again, different way of doing that. And again, that's how I did that shape. There was the shape right there. And then again, just to reiterate what I did before, and that is, let me pull back on this so we can see. And that is, I painted that in on this layer here to finish that off. And then again, stamp layer, visible stamp layer, Shift Control Alt E on the keyboard. I did a whole video on visual stamp layers and how you use that. And then again, I did the multiply blending mode at the very top here at 100%. And that just made everything jet black around there. I had masked in, remember that? The original photograph, the brightness I had on that, because this multiply made it too dark. So that was the mask again, really quick. And then visible stamp layer again, because I did, again, a Control T and rotated that a bit to straighten it up based on my liking. You might like that. I mean, I'm just, again, just playing with this. And then I added the hair. So hopefully that shows up there on the video. And then again, her name in my signature, again, at the very bottom, lower right-hand corner. So again, that's how that was constructed. And very inspirational to have that image, and really forced me to think and come up with solutions to come up with something very, very similar to that. All right, with that one out of the way, this will be a little bit quicker, but I'm going to show you what I did with the one by John Gladman. So I'm going to close out of this, and we'll start with that image. Okay, so here we are back in Photoshop, and this is the final image I did. Let me just make this a little bit smaller. Let's resize this. And you can see the original that I was working from, or where I got my inspiration from, and to deconstruct that. And that was from John Gladman again. And again, I was literally laying on the ground. So this was shot very low, because again, I'm trying to deconstruct this. Very flat lighting, so it was straight on lighting, big softbox. And actually it was a big umbrella covered with a sock, so it was like equivalent to a large softbox. And again, very flat lighting to take the shot. And then the rest was just my personal taste on this. So my colors are, just more antique-ish looking, but again, that's all personal preference. So let me show you how this was actually put together. And just again, she was wearing a G-string, but she again was topless. So I'm going to be very careful on the image here, but let me just get rid of her for a second to show you the on and off of that with the daisies, and they got just blurred out. But let's take a look at how this was put together, and let's hide her for a moment. And we'll just close that group down. That's where she was at. And to construct this, I just started with a basic image I had before used, and this is what I started with. Just added just a little bit of contrast, changed some brightness, toned it down a little bit with the hue. I pulled the saturation down. I added a layer here that is just in soft light blending mode at 30% with that color, so it just gives it a different slight look there. And then coming over here, before I put in the different plants and stuff, let me show you the grass. So just there was the grass I put in the front there for the background. Added another duplication of that. Let's find some more grass so we can see how that was put together. Got more grass there. And then I had one other layer. They had some grass right there. And again, they're layered at different levels here in the composition, because when I dropped her in, let's find her. When I dropped her in, and by the way, again, G string, not to think that that's, she was bottomless. It was not. That was taken out all in Photoshop. And again, she was topless on this shot. But let's take a look at how that was all covered up. And again, if we take a look at this, I'm just adding different elements. Hey guys, I just want to pause the video here for a moment. I forgot to mention that the model Jinx was actually photographed off a green screen, and I used the plugin called Easy Green Screen in Photoshop. Did a video on that weeks ago, so you might want to check that out. But again, that's important to note that she was shot off green screen. That's what allowed me to cut her out to use her in this composition. And she is being dropped in. If I grab my move tool, you can see how she's sinking into the grass, and that's represented with the different layers again and stuff where I had the grasses located. Some of the grass was on top of her, some was behind her. And then here's some more, just different plants and things that were positioned there. And then this was hiding her right there and hiding this spot. Let's see, right, where was the daisies at? There we go. There's the daisies that covered the top part of her. And then the rest was just positioning things where I wanted. These were different stock images I had of weeds and plants and stuff just to drop in there. Threw in the butterflies. I had found some butterflies. I actually purchased those years ago that were already pre-cut at different angles and just dropped them in. So they were like PNG files. And then I added some texture here based on the look that I wanted personally. It doesn't mean you have to do that. There was blending mode of multiply at about 65% opacity. So there's a before and after on that. And then this is just adding that layer with that color with soft light, sort of brighten that up a bit. And again, it's all personal preference. And then there is my signature at the very bottom. So again, just to reiterate how this was put together. And again, I was shooting low on the ground. I was laying on the ground a good 15 feet away again. I had a large umbrella with a sock on it, which makes it really equivalent to a large softbox, and shot that straight on. So it was very flat lighting. Mine was a little bit deeper, say antique-ish type look color versus John's, but again, this is for inspiration. I was inspired by the image, and I was deconstructing it to come up with my own personality and feel and look into that image. So hopefully that helps you out on what a inspired deconstructive image is and how you might approach that. I'm going to challenge you: get out there and do this. I mean, why not? See what you can do. Now, maybe you're not good at maybe compositing yet or something like that, so that's fine. Just find a normal, say, photograph that you found that she's just like, wow, I really like that, and try to deconstruct it and come close to that. Again, remember, it doesn't have to be perfect. That's not the whole purpose of it. It's that journey. All right, so hopefully you learned something, and I'm just going to do this once again. If you learned something, please like this. Subscribe if you have not subscribed, and hit that notification bell. Also, if you could do me a favor, if you have any questions on this, here's my email address. Again, it's stephenphotoartist@gmail.com. Feel free to email me with any questions or any suggestions of videos you would like to see in the future. I do have a bit of a backlog, but I always want to maintain that backlog for myself. Okay, so with that out of the way, you know how I always end this, and that is get that darn camera out, think creatively, literally out of the box. Until next time, see ya!